This is what I'm going to call Nashua Geographic. The name was suggested by Kevin Abard of Abard Productions. And this is really telling where people can walk. It's walking trails by the Nashua River. I do it regularly. I have been doing it for about 23 years. And during that time, I've seen otters and fisher and mink and muskrats, beaver, deer, fox, coyotes. The only thing I haven't seen would be the moose and the bear. However, I've seen evidence of them being here. It's really quite beautiful, and the enjoyment is immense because it's so quiet and peaceful, and you rarely see anybody taking advantage of this. It's just such a nice area to walk, and I sincerely enjoy it. I deliberately let the sound of the swan's wings on the river show up on this, or be heard on this DVD, because they are quite a ways away and the large wings, and it really is kind of a pleasure to hear them. Here, of course, they're swimming, and there's not a lot of sound here, but it's a beautiful day, and seeing these swans right from our deck is quite a thrill. Very peaceful and beautiful. And they wintered here all year, this year of 2011 and 2012. We're seeing some common mergansers. They're more of a migratory duck. We see them here in the spring and the fall, rarely all summer. They really are a little spooky, a little bit difficult to come close to getting good photo ops. They're very fast. The male, of course, has the black head and the body is white, and the female, her head is more buff, but still the white body. And they are really a fun bird to watch, but difficult to come close to. This is a sight we frequently see from our deck. The great blue heron. I have seen as many as 7 of them out here at one time. That was several years ago. Recently, you see 1 or 2. Of course, the mallards are always here. And swans, they've been wintering here, and Canada geese are here. Swans try to take possession of the whole area. They're very aggressive. But it's so fun to watch when we're standing right on our deck to view this the scenes. Of course, this great blue heron, he is really the true fisherman or fisher bird, whatever you want to call them. They rarely miss, and it's fun to watch them. And the ducks, of course. I guess they call them ducks because they're ducking. And these are mallards, and they're quite beautiful as well. And people kind of take them for granted, but they are here and beautiful. I really don't take them for granted because they are quite beautiful. They do make a lot of noise all morning, night, and anytime they're out here. I've been told that these are black-backed robins. They come down from Newfoundland. Usually the end of the year or the beginning of January, we see flocks of these coming in. Sometimes they're accompanied by cedar waxwings. These robins are much more vivid and more colorful than the ones we see during the summer. This is a robin singing early morning song. Really nice to hear. They're beautiful singing birds. This is rather interesting. The cardinals really love the sunflower seeds we put in this squirrel-proof feeder. There was also a house finch, or a purple finch. I think it was a house finch sitting there that the male cardinal chased away. He didn't chase him too far. The little smaller songbird landed down on the deck railing, and he's having his meal there. Love it. Here we're seeing goldfinches and American tree sparrow, or a chipping sparrow on our thistle peters. quite unusual to see a pileated woodpecker this close to us, but this is seen from our deck with pileated woodpecker eating suet. Here we're seeing hairy woodpeckers and downy woodpeckers. They're eating suet from the same tree from where the pileated woodpecker had been. The half of an orange is nailed up there for orioles, but we find all other birds like catbirds, blackbirds, even crows enjoying them. But the orioles specifically are really beautiful. There's an oriole nest right out over in a tree hanging out over the water, and here's a male oriole that is gathering some of the pulp from the orange, and he's going to fly away and take it back to his family in the nest. Many times while sitting at our deck, having lunch, or just sitting enjoying being there, we're seeing the ruby-throated hummingbirds come to our bird feeder, hummingbird feeder. And this is quite a thrill, actually, because they're unbelievable. You see them and you say, wow, look at those little wings go so fast. And they really, really enjoy getting the feed, the nectar from this feeder. Sometimes you'll see a hornet. Matter of fact, many times you'll see a hornet enjoying it, and even birds and other birds and squirrels sometimes will take advantage of it. A couple of years ago, we put up 6 nesting boxes for the eastern bluebirds, and we've been quite successful with them. We've had a number of broods. This is a male sitting in a tree up above where one of the bluebird nesting boxes is, and he's just sizing it up. But we've had some real success, and it's been quite a thrill because they're one of our favorite birds. This is one of the nesting boxes on the ball field at Hollis Crossing, and there's a male bluebird sitting there. This box has been very successful. We've had several broods of little ones happening here. So it's quite a thrill. Since we're caring for the bluebirds and watching them, we also like to feed them. We take mealworms and put on top of the nesting box. Sometimes we put them in little medical dosage cups, along with sometimes one for mealworms and one for water, and the birds really like it. It's fun to watch them enjoy themselves. Now here we're watching some of the adults pick up the mealworms. They eat some of them themselves, but usually they take them inside and feed the little ones. And sometimes you see an adult with 3 or 4 mealworms in their beak at one time, and they'll sit there and feel pretty happy about it. Sometimes they bring food for themselves that we haven't supplied, but you really feel like you're helping them, maybe even making them a little bit lazy, but what the heck. I think we pay for the enjoyment of watching this. Here's another treat we get. Beside the eastern bluebirds taking advantage of the nesting boxes, we often get the tree swallows. And they're a beautiful bird. They're iridescent blue on the back, bluish green, and we've had some success. And these are the birds that feed on the wing, and they really clean out the insects in a given territory. And that's also a pleasure. This is another sight we get to enjoy right from our deck. There's a white-tailed deer, a doe, right across on the little land strip, right across from between the river and the wetlands, where actually the doe is about ready to give birth, we feel. There's some birds flying around there. They're very excited. I think that's something we saw in Africa when there was near birthing experience. The birds and other wildlife got pretty excited. So that's what we're seeing here. Now this is quite a treat. Now I think it was the next day this doe showed up with a fawn, and we saw it over there several times after that. But this is quite a thrill to be able to see something from our deck that's probably 250 yards or 300 yards away. But it was such a nice day and such a pleasure to watch or have this kind of scene to watch. We've seen several times deer walk right up to the deck, right in back of our house, townhouse here. And we've had red fox come across there. We've had coyotes. And we've had a lot of bird sightings. I think at one time when they first lost the water because of a dam breaking down below, we had a lot of bird sightings. Maybe up to probably 100 bird sightings we'd recorded. Here we're seeing an osprey fishing. They circle and they spot their fish and they hover and they plummet sometimes 50 feet or so. And it really is fun to watch. Here we've seen the first pass, he catches one, and then a little later we see another one. And it's really amazing that they don't really hurt themselves on this as they hit the water, because they really smack it. Here we saw another bird. It almost sounds like an eagle. However, it could be an osprey, but we see it fishing in pretty much the same manner, except it picks a fish off the surface. 2 years ago, there was a pair of ospreys that nested, and we watched from our living room. I put my spotting scope up and trained the scope on the nest around the clock. And we watched them from the day they built the nest to the day the two young ones flew away. Here's where we're seeing a hawk eating a gray squirrel that took off our deck. This is the red-tailed hawk. He's dining and he's being harassed by a crow. This is fun to watch, where the black ants are taking little particles out of this big white pine down by the river. They drop it down to their buddies, and their buddies drop it down onto the ground. Really, it's a very interesting thing to watch. This is something you rarely see. There are two little black ant nests. There's a jillion little ants. I couldn't live long enough to count them. Now, this was quite a thrill to watch. Early one morning, it was still winter. There were two big adult beavers swimming, and I was fortunate enough to be there. And I got some pretty good video, but it's another thrill that I get from walking early in the morning and seeing these. There were two of them, very large beavers. See a lot of smaller ones, but these two were outstanding. This is a second beaver. The other one we saw slap his tail, but this is the second one. I just stood and watched them for a while and had the pleasure of recording them. But there were two of them. And we see a lot of beaver activity. We see trees, and actually some of the ornamental trees on the property have been cut down, much to the dismay of some of the landscape people. But it comes with the territory. While we're on the subject of water animals, here is a little muskrat that just sitting there chomping away on something, and finally he swims around the corner and we see him and we see his long, narrow, hairless tail versus the flat, big, broad tail of the beaver. This is a fun little animal to watch. Now here we're seeing the activity of muskrats and a fish surfacing, and this is right from our deck. We see a lot of times we see muskrats out there. We've seen otters, we've seen beaver, and these little muskrats, they'll slap their tail in the water too when they're getting nervous. I think we'll see one here fairly soon. But there he goes. Now this is a scene from our deck. It's quite different through the 4 seasons, but here are some of the sounds we hear from this when we're listening to in the evening. Those are the springtime peepers, and we hear that from our bedroom window on the 20th of March. Well, that's it for now for Nashua Geographic. Goodbye.